It is Music and Stuff on Classic Country 100.1 WGLC. Good morning. I'm Charles. I'm your host at 8:04 in the morning, 31 degrees. And joining us in studio this morning, some guests are going to be putting on a show in Princeton later on this month. I'd like to welcome to WGLC this morning Jeff Sudakov and Dave Roden. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Good morning.
Glad to have you boys in here. Now, you guys are going to be doing something special in Princeton, a usually it's like a one-man show, but in this case, this is a two-man show.
Most definitely.
But it is strictly related to what you're doing. We are doing a radio play.
They're doing a radio play. Well,
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about that. That's the difference between a regular play and a radio play. If you're not familiar with that, if you haven't ever gone to something that's a radio play, you may find yourself slightly disappointed when you arrive at a radio play, unless it's this one that you guys are doing.
I
of
hope
course.
they're not disappointed.
But a radio play is just the audio performance of a theatrical event. So
Most definitely.
There's not the big set, so to speak. There's not people running through doors.
We're sort of a hybrid. We have a big set, and we have something amazing visuals for you. So the audience is as if they're in an old radio station and they're watching a live radio broadcast being performed.
We refer to it as a live radio show. Technically, the show takes place in 1959. So if you really wanted to hear it on air, you supposedly would need to be living in 1959 somewhere in London in order to be able to hear the show. Because Her Majesty's Radio Theatre is a radio program broadcast from somewhere in Britannia, as we suppose, in 1959. So we're doing what we call, in quotations, a live radio show.
And so you're doing a performance of a radio broadcast from the United Kingdom in the 50s.
Yes.
And like a radio show in the era, again, radio used to be full before, obviously, network television. Radio was full of dramas and comedies and mysteries performed on the air. And plenty of people got their start. Burns and Allen.
Most definitely.
Those types of comedies got their start on radio first. You guys aren't necessarily doing a comedy intentionally.
Oh, well, yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Yes. Now, the piece that we've used is bridges the gap in between mystery and horror. And that piece is Sherlock Holmes in The Hound of the Baskervilles.
So you're doing a Sherlock Holmes radio play.
As told by Monty Python.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's going to have the quirkiness of British humor, which clearly neither one of you are British, best as I can gather.
I'm an Irishman. Believe me, I almost have to purge my body every single time after I hang up a British flag and speak in a British accent.
We speak in many accents in this show.
Yes.
Our characters are from all over the world.
So you're playing multiple characters during this performance.
Yes.
I play the host of Her Majesty's Radio Theatre, Nigel Baxter Ellis. I also play Watson.
Ah, yes.
And I play his guest actor, Wilfred Bilbram, his friend, who comes in to help him in the studio. And I'm Sherlock Holmes.
The Sherlock Holmes.
The Sherlock Holmes. That is correct, sir.
221B Baker Street, the whole
Please do not come knocking at my door unless you have a case for me to solve.
Well, there you go. So the radio theater presentation of Sherlock Holmes. So this is going to sort of paraphrase the A. Conan Doyle story.
Yes.
Plus the antics of, obviously, a live radio broadcast in front of, now you have an audience in front of you too. So is the audience going to be a part of the performance?
Most certainly. During the show, we will each be using signs that allow the audience to, of course, applaud, cheer, ooh in eerie excitement, and because we are presenting the show called
The Hound of the Baskervilles,
our audience provides the howl.
I just had to... Now, for those of you who didn't get to see that because it's radio, you two actually coordinated, by the way, to talk at the same time, which is ridiculous, and I'm sure more of that happens. Now, this is going to be coming up.
We do that so second nature, we don't even think about it.
Yes.
And that's going to be taking place in Princeton coming up at the end of the month. We'll talk more about tickets and the show and details. We'll take a short break. More after this. It's Music and Stuff on Classic Country 100.1 WGLC. And we are back on Music and Stuff this morning. I'm Charles, your host. Of course, Music and Stuff brought to you by Eureka Savings Bank, the best place to borrow, the best place to save. Now, Dave Roden and Jeff Sudakov are in the studio with us. They are going to be performing in Princeton. And what's the venue?
The venue is the Prairie Arts Council Theater.
And that's a neat little space in Princeton there on that sort of semicircle thing around the park.
It's a full circle.
It's a full circle.
Yes. That one half of it is a semicircle.
Yes.
The semi.
That's excellent. Thank you, traffic manager Dave. So you guys will be performing at this small space for just 2 dates only, right?
Most definitely. Now, I want you to know that if you want to see the premiere production of Her Majesty's Radio Theater Presents Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles, you will see that at the Prairie Arts Council Theater in Princeton, Illinois. We are hoping that you are so hungry for more that you'll get to see us in other places in the Illinois Valley.
We are in contact with other theaters and begging for dates.
So will you be getting the old flat-sided pickup truck and the padded carpet suitcases and travel across the country then?
We have boxes that were made for the props that were made. Our prop maker, Ed Koizumi, not only makes the most amazing props, but he makes the most amazing boxes for us to carry them in. So we don't have to do too much work. But yes, we have a set, and we can move our entire set. Usually takes my pickup truck 2 trips.
Yeah.
And be completely set and ready to perform in one day.
And again, this is a radio play, but to touch on the props and the set, it's not just you two blokes up there with microphones in front of you making silly sounds. You've actually integrated into this show, and as someone who's seen a little taste of this show, it's definitely like the old school radio days. Like you imagine how they used to do the Lone Ranger on the radio, where they would have the box of straw and they would shake the tin and all those other things. You guys go to all the effort with those sound effects in sort of that traditional 1920s to 40s, early 50s radio style.
We actually have a box of straw.
Yeah.
Yes. We have, and just talk about when we said our prop maker, that's pretty simple. We have a man, Ed Koizumi, who has made us some old school and beautiful sound effects machines, and that you will find that wind and hail and door knocks and door creaks
and rain machines and phone ringers
produced directly in front of you in some of the most beautiful and ingenious products that this gentleman has made.
And it isn't like, nowadays, and I know this because we're in a modern studio here. I have access to all sorts of things. I can make any sound effect happen, if I want to. I can just hit a button and I can make, something happen. But you're not doing it that way. You're not using a keyboard.
It is
you're
live
not
Foley.
This is all mechanical devices
Correct.
that were suitable for 1959.
Yes, the sounds that you will hear. And if you close your eyes and listen and don't watch us, you would have an amazing radio performance and experience all of those sound effects. And then when you open your eyes and you watch us juggle, literally with multiple hands doing multiple things while we're also doing the multiple voices, it's another worldly experience.
Yeah, so you got hand cranks and dials and switches and
footsteps made with shoes and rustling a piece of paper in my hand.
We have to make every single sound. We have servants' bells and doorbells. I mean, it goes on and on. I think when we first, because this is the second show we've done on this set, we created our very first show, The Mystery of Irma Vep, from an existing script and built props around that. And then here it is later, we wanted to do an original script and we want to have even more props. What other weird sound effects can we write into this play? Ed, would. Will you please build us a dot.
Then you guys just started building this just collection of, I guess, I don't know, like whiz-bang. Some of it looks like Dr. Seuss in nature, to be realistic,
Yes.
with the cranks and the levers and everything else, and they all have specific functions and skills. And kudos to you guys and your engineer, I suppose.
And our engineer. All we have to do is go, we need a machine that kind of does this thing. And then Ed goes down a rabbit hole.
And he doesn't, he's a prop builder. He's
Yeah.
a long history of prop building. And he said the other night, it's fun to build a props with a lovely visual, but to really focus on what does it sound like.
Yeah.
Because we've been playing with a door creak. And
Yeah.
he's said he's tried literally 12 different ropes on dowels with rosin to see which one makes the best sound.
To make a door creak.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. We'll touch base with you guys again. We'll be back in one moment, take a quick break, and come back and talk more about this show, how to get tickets, the dates, the times, and a little bit about you guys personally as well. It's all coming up here on Music and Stuff on WGLC. It is Music and Stuff presented by Eureka Savings Bank, the best place to borrow, the best place to save. I'm Charles, your host extraordinaire on this Sunday morning, 8:18. Of course, we've got some friends in the studio, Dave Roden and Jeff Sudakov from the show they're going to be performing. It's Her Majesty's Radio Theater presents Sherlock Holmes in Hound of the Baskervilles. And it's going to be happening in Princeton, and the venue, once again, the Princeton Arts Council.
The Prairie Arts Council Theater.
Prairie Arts Council Theater. That's in downtownish Princeton, right there. And when's the show dates? When are you guys going to be performing?
The show will be performed March 24th and 25th at 7:30 p.m.
And tickets, if you need to find out more about tickets.
$15 for adults, $10 for students. You can order online at prairiearts.org, or you can call the theater, but I don't have that number on this piece of paper.
Fantastic. So, yeah, just prairiearts.org for this. Ticket sales, any idea where you're at right now?
No clue.
No idea.
Perfect. That's keep you in the dark. It's always better.
We're hoping an audience does arrive.
There, you know what? You can only hope. You can only hope. Now,
You'll laugh. I swear you'll have a good time and laugh if you come.
this isn't your first go-abouts in theater, so we'll start with you, Jeff. When did you start in theater? What got you on stage first?
I started as a dance studio when I was 10. And I danced professionally for almost 17 years in Southern California. I have a degree in theater arts from Cal State Fullerton with a minor in dance. I got my first professional gig when I was 15 years old in a production of South Pacific for a summer run at an outdoor dinner theater, and we could see the Disneyland fireworks from our stage. We used to pretend it was the war going on. And I danced professionally 7 shows a week for many, many, many years. Worked for Princess Cruises.
Okay.
Eventually, my knee made me stop dancing professionally when I was about 31 years old.
But you did the whole cruise ship run.
Well, I was lucky. I had a guest entertainer gig rather than a dancer gig, which means I had my own cabin. I was in charge of the sword fighting. I played a pirate named Scurvy in a fat suit who fell down a lot, and I got paid disgustingly well for it.
Well, that's good, because there are some people who do the performer run on cruise ships, and not only are you entertaining in 4 shows a day, you're also washing dishes and or cleaning up the chocolate fountain.
I had the cushy gig, 2 shows a day, only 4 days a week. The rest of the day was my own, and I worked on 2 ships at once. So every Tuesday, I would get off the ship wherever we were, fly to Miami, spend the night in the Miami International Hotel, have my per diem, and then fly to whatever other island we're going to for the other ship for a week of performances, then fly back to the other ship.
And do it back and forth.
Yeah, it was quite the fun. And my own cabin and, passenger status.
That's nice then.
I got really like, and that was a great way to end my career.
Was there ever any nights when the seas were too rough and the show got canceled?
No, they would make us perform no matter how rough that sea was. And man, it was brutal sometimes for the acrobats because, you're trying to do a hand balancing act and the stage is going on.
And the ship's moving.
Amazing. Yeah. The worst moment that we ever had is I had to jump off a table at one point. And sometimes you jump off the table, and if you jumped off the table at the top of a wave, by the time you reached the stage, you didn't fall 4 feet, you fell 10.
Oh, yeah, because everything would move away from you.
Right. And so, or sometimes what was worse is you jump off the bottom of a wave, and all of a sudden you're on the stage really quick. Like, how did that happen? It very
come
bizarre.
to greet you.
Yeah, it is an interesting experience performing on that kind of a stage.
Now, Dave,
my theater stories, I'm sorry, I don't have anything quite as glamorous or interesting. I actually started, I did my stuff in high school and decided that I was gonna do theater, and I went to the University of Miami, Coral Gables, Florida. I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater. I worked in the South Florida theater circuit until taxation changes made theater start to fold like crazy. Wow, so I did the New York City thing.
Oh,
yeah, and so I did some shows. I did one show, two shows in New York City, but I ended up, of course, doing like the gypsy thing, and meaning that you go out to other cities. You don't really have a home, shall we say?
So I never got to do that much. I was concentrated in Southern California, and I worked in a lot of theaters in this area that most people would recognize, something like Circa 21.
Yeah.
Good level of theater, really talented performers with a nice dinner going on. I did a lot of theater like that. There was a lot of that in Southern California, which was you got paid every week.
Yeah.
And that was a joy.
And you weren't bussing tables in Southern California.
And I didn't have to clean tables. Yeah, I had my morning coffee job, making espresso drinks, and then go to the theater at night.
Yeah, and same thing. When you speak of Circa 21, is that for a gig one summer, I got cast 30 years ago to play Charlie Cowell at Circa 21 Dinner Theater in The Music Man.
Ah.
And I met my wife at a party. And that's why I'm in Illinois.
Yeah, because clearly she looked at you and went, boy, this theater thing's nice. How about a real job?
That took a while, actually.
Yeah.
When I did Music Man, I played Marcellus and sang Shapoopy, and no one wanted to marry me.
Yeah, that's part of the role, really, let's be.
Yes.
So both of you were in The Music Man. That's funny.
I've done that show 3 times.
Wow.
I've played Tommy DeGilis when I was a young dancer. I've played the quartet, sung in the quartet, and I've played Marcellus. I've done 3 productions of that show.
2 productions, I was Charlie Cowell, and I was in the quartet. I don't remember which guy, but second tenor.
Shall we sing?
I've wanted to be in that show, but I've never had the time or the or the skills to pull it off as such. But someday I'll show up.
We've got 3 members of the quartet
there
right here.
Yeah, right. So maybe we'll do a live theater.
Yeah, I could do a
live radio.
I'll put on the straw hat and we'll go and be the Buffaloes. So you guys have gotten together for this. Now, how long have you two known each other?
Ooh,
we've been close friends since about the mid-teens. We've known each other
not teenagers.
No, since the teens. 15, 16,
the 19 teens? I mean, I don't want to disparage your age, but...
We've known of each other and we're friends before that. I think when I asked you to film the Illinois Bed and Breakfast Association how to experience a B&B, and he played my role as the innkeeper, and we were guests at our own bed and breakfast, and we asked him to act the role, and I had written a little script, and we were filming that for the Illinois Bed and Breakfast Association.
So Jeff directed me to play him in the role that he was doing in life.
Now, was it done like straight up to be sincere, or was it like Fawlty Towers?
That was straight up to be sincere for the Illinois Bed and Breakfast Association, sort of like an infomercial.
The outtakes were Fawlty Towers then.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then it was years later that Dave directed me in a production at Stage 212 called Next to Normal. And that was the first show we really did together and became good friends at that point.
Ah, great. So then you guys got together to put together this show, which you've adapted from a pre-existing work, obviously, the Sherlock Holmes story. And we'll talk about that coming up. It's Music and Stuff here on Classic Country 100.1 WGLC. And we are back here on Music and Stuff. I'm Charles, your host this morning, joined in studio by actors extraordinaire Dave Roden and Jeff Sudakov. And they've got this show coming up in Princeton called Her Majesty's Radio Theater Presents Sherlock Holmes in The Hound of the Baskervilles. It's a radio drama comedy performance. And let's talk about how this got put together, because you're adapting Sherlock Holmes for radio, which has been done before, undoubtedly, many times. But you guys are putting a new spin on it of 2 guys trying to pull this show off just by themselves.
Well, we've been doing this bit for the radio, and we really wanted to do something original. I have no skills as a writer. Luckily, my partner here does. So Dave took it upon himself to do that.
Right. And so I said, how are we going to do this? We wanted to have a new work. Sherlock Holmes and all of the Conan Doyle stories had become public domain, so I was free to use it without paying anybody. But I listened to this audiobook to make sure that I had it, and it was about 6 hours long.
Oh, that's tedious.
Yes, I read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm thinking, wow, how are we going to tell all of this? We're going to have to really figure out what we can use and what we can't, and still tell the whole story.
And also create the fact that it's a radio program. And so we have hosts in the show. We have fake commercials in the show for the period. And so how are we going to get that atmosphere in and do a show where we don't have to serve 3 meals during the day so people are there?
Or do a radio serial and make people come back every 2 weeks to hear the next episode.
And if you're a real fan of Hound of the Baskervilles, there'll be some big chunks missing for you. But we do tell the story, and you will hear the whole story of the Hound of the Baskervilles.
So you guys, obviously you divvied up Watson and Sherlock Holmes first, and all the other side characters and things. When did this project start? Because we're sitting at March of 2023.
Yes.
When did Hound of the Baskervilles get in your radar and you go, that's what we're going to do?
We started talking about it in the early summer. When did you start actually writing?
Oh gosh, I like about that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had found
last summer, of course.
I had found a public domain radio drama of this show. I wasn't completely satisfied with it, but it was like, okay, this is 2 hours long, and they tell the story in 2 hours. How
in a
did they
very
do it?
serious way.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And I, honest to God, had my headsets on transcribing the show.
Huh.
Yes. But I wasn't satisfied with it.
Yeah.
So I went back to the original work. I honestly had Project Gutenberg open. It was like, first of all, it's radio, and I want people to know more about who Watson is and what this guy looks like. And I had to go to other Sherlock Holmes stories, like the first ones, to say, and Sherlock Holmes looks like this, and use Conan Doyle's description of each one of these characters from other stories, because people already knew who Sherlock Holmes and Watson were by this point.
And you're not going to be on stage in the deerstalker hat then, right?
No,
there's no point in that. No one will see that. But, he's cutting himself short a little bit in the fact that he had to condense a story down, so he couldn't tell word for word what was there.
Yeah. Right.
He had to rewrite it way more than he's alluding to. And then, of course, there's what I call the wraparound script.
Yeah.
So there's the script of Hound of the Baskervilles. Then there's the script of Wilfred and Nigel, the 2 radio performers, and their script around it.
I'm going to guess, because like any good show or performance, there's probably a conflict between the 2 radio performers as well that probably has to be resolved too.
Oh, most definitely. Is that my character, Nigel Baxter Ellis, is the more conservative host of the program. This is my mainstay job.
And I am a traveling actor named Wilfred Bilbram who gets work wherever he can.
You're going to make me start talking funny here in a second.
Yes.
Keep that up.
So as Nigel Baxter Ellis tells the story, he goes ahead and gives the cue to Wilfred, my Willie over here, and tells him, okay, this is the character you're going to play, and suggests maybe yet another accent that maybe Wilfred is not ready to perform. And I would go ahead and say, well, Dr. Mortimer enters the scene with a lilt of Irish joy.
Oh, faith be God, I wouldn't be racing me shillelagh for the years.
And that is just a slice of the ridiculousness that's coming to Princeton coming up near the end of the month. Tickets on sale at the prairiearts.org website. It's going to be happening March 24th and March 25th. You two boys, thank you for coming in this morning. Anything else you want to talk about this morning?
We do have the phone number if you'd like to call for tickets. It's
yes.
815-875-2787. Call today.
That's 815-875-2787.
Wow. You guys are going to put me out of a job. I've got a couple of scripts here I need you to read by any chance, if you can, for commercial. St. Patrick's Day is coming up.
Well, this is a country music station, so I'll use a different accent if you'd rather.
Wow, that's a, no, don't do that. No. It is music and stuff. Dave, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's been a pleasure.
It is.
Bye-bye.
Classic Country, 100.1 WGLC.